Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video. For today's video, we're going to continue the discussion about the significant permits that have been recently filed by Tesla for the expansion and changes and upgrades here at Giga-Texas. As I mentioned in the previous video, there are just so many of these that have been recently filed that I broke it up into part 1 and part 2. Part 1 was on my 12 May video. I recommend you go back and watch those. And this one today will just continue with where we left off. Now, previously we talked about the permits and the construction for Cortex 2 just north of this parking lot, and that's displacing many of the temporary trailers that Tesla has used for the last few years for many functions. One of them is security. This permit is talking about a new trailer system being brought here to this parking lot for security. In addition to that, the employee and visitor support area trailers, that office space and check-in is being moved to these new trailers that Aries Construction has just recently added, and this is also going to allow for the new higher orientation trailer and those functions to be added here as well. Now, this is the location with the original trailer system. You can see how it's too close to all of that construction that is underway, so they have to move those away. And these permits about the office trailer with additional training space being moved away. They're also going to be doing some additional outside functions that are going to be moving to that parking lot just to the south. The mailroom and the teamwear trailer is going to be moved, and in addition to that, the bookable trailer training trailer assembly space is all being relocated, and this is to facilitate that construction on this north end. So moving across the highway to the west side, end of line, outbound lot, and the west support facility, there have been a lot of changes very recently in this entire section to prepare for this outbound logistics. This is just a summary of many of the permits that have been completed very recently, but there is a new one that I think is pretty exciting. It has to do with this, which is the end-of-line Semi-Atlas Stator project. And now what this may be is to allow the Tesla Semi to operate in the outbound lot and maybe provide the transportation functions for the new vehicles. This stator is a component of the electrical motor for the semis, and it may be related to the maintenance that is needed. Perhaps they will be setting up all of this system for semis very soon. So pretty neat to see. Now, going all the way over to the battery cathode plant, I found some permits that I found very interesting and intriguing, and I wanted to share with you here. This first one is talking about the cathode new vehicle launch system pilot shop. And this is something that they've been building out within the structure here. They also have this permit, which is the New Vehicle Launch Center Phase 3. And why would this be over here at the cathode building? I have a couple of ideas. First of all, this New Vehicle Launch Center may be for showcasing, testing, or preparing new vehicle models for launch. Still not sure, but I want to get clarity on that. The other thing is that the cathode building is kind of far away and isolated. So they may be working on some of the new vehicles over here to just keep away from prying eyes. So more to follow. I just thought that was very interesting. Moving to the stamping and stamping 2 sections of the factory on the east side, I found an interesting new permit. This one has to do with Stamping Bay 5, the HPCS, which stands for High Pressure Cooling System. This is often used in industrial settings for equipment cooling, and this may be related to the large cooling pipes that we've been seeing on the east staging yard at the welding shops as they've been preparing for them, and they've been moving into the factory. So this may be related to preparing the Stamping 2 section, which was added later on from the original Stamping 1 for some additional stamping machines, or at least some additional capabilities. Moving to the die shop next to the battery cathode building, we've been seeing a lot of construction going on inside for a reinforced new slab, and it may be related to this particular permit, which is the Die Shop EDM Sinker 2, and that is a specific piece of equipment or process called electrical discharge machining. It's a sinker machine which uses kind of a bath of oil, and it is able to do precision manufacturing to create complex shapes in metal, often for dies and molds. This inset image gives you an idea of what that looks like. And this is probably related to expanding the capabilities here at the die shop to do more manufacturing, testing, and maintenance of dies, specifically the dies for the Giga presses. And finally, over at the electrical switchyard and the megapack, we know that they are doing a lot of work to prepare for the expansion of the switchyard, and they've been installing the megapack. I found some permits that are pertinent to this. This talks about the battery electric storage system, or the megapacks, and this is doing the final work for that wiring and connection and operation. But I also found this, which is the LCRA switchyard expansion, which validates what I've been saying as far as doubling the size of the switchyard. LCR is the Lower Colorado River Authority, and this is their project as all of the electrical systems here. It's part of the way Texas operates with electrical, and they are working in conjunction with Tesla for this installation. So there you have it, long part 1 and part 2 about a significant number of permits that have been filed recently to change, modify, upgrade, and just overall improve the capabilities of Giga-Texas. I hope that you found these part 1 and 2 informative and helpful, and I hope it helps put into context what we are seeing. So without further ado, let's get the drone in the air, fly around, and see what Giga-Texas looks like today. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. Well, good early morning flight here at Giga-Texas in the northwest side. Wanted to fly at this part of the site and show you the unimproved land at the bottom of the screen. This is still part of Tesla's property. Of course, this is not yet improved, and we'll see what they end up doing with it. But at some point, I would expect some sort of construction here. But what I also want to show you is that Welcome Center construction site, the graded area, and how it is starting to take shape. And of course, a nice view across this site to the main factory. You can also see the die shop and the cathode building and that new Cortex 2 building in the upper left-hand side of the screen. As I bring the drone down lower, what we can tell is that so far the improved area for construction, or at least what they're doing here, looks kind of like an L shape. I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do on the right-hand side of the screen with the rest of this dirt. Maybe they'll continue to be filling it in, but it's definitely something worth watching as time goes on. Now, this is one of those security gates. This is where a lot of the vehicles come through and get checked so that they can continue down to the end of line facility. As we cross over Tesla Road looking towards the east, the bottom of the screen is that natural gas terminal that was added in recently, and that's a part of the lateral extension for the Sand Hill Energy Plant on the south side of the Colorado River. So I'm going to fly slightly more towards the north. We'll look across the highway and we'll resume on the other side. Here we see some of the trucks with vehicles loaded up, waiting for their slot time to head up to the Taylor railhead, while they'll be loaded up onto trains for shipment around the country. Also, while we're here, it's a nice view across that entire north construction zone. The battery cathode plant in the upper left, die shop, the new Cortex 2, and of course the electrical switch yard on the right-hand side of the screen. The bottom of the screen here is that new semi-permanent concrete batch plant, and that is what is serving the needs for a lot of the concrete for more of the construction here at Giga-Texas, as well as some areas around Austin. As I get closer into the construction zone, a nice lower view across that entire area, we see a lot of activity with the cranes and materials at that Cortex 2 facility. We'll get some closer views of that momentarily. They are moving more of the concrete vaults at the bottom of the screen, and this area where that old pond has been completely filled in, and it looks like the last of the underground water pipes have been removed, and they are now filling in this depression. Again, all of this area is being prepared for the construction of the addition or the expansion of the electrical switchyard, which will double its overall capacity. There is additional earthwork being done here, and you can kind of tell that there is a step change in the grade, and that is what they are working on here. Now we also see the fence posts being installed around the perimeter of the Megapack 2. This is a great sign because once that fence is in, then they can start looking at energizing the system. So still a ways to go, but nonetheless great progress. This is a nice view of all of the installed components and the equipment, including that new trailer on that north end. And you can tell that they have been busy and doing a lot more of the cable connections between the Megapacks and those transformers down the middle. And once that is done, I think we'll start seeing the cables going on those cable trays up to the north to connect into that trailer. Speaking of trailers, these are the ones that are being relocated. This is what has been temporary offices, welcome centers, orientation and training centers for Tesla for a few years. They're now in the way for that construction. So what they are doing is they are bringing in all of these trailers, and they're going to reestablish that complex of offices in this location, at least temporarily, until the Welcome Center and the Employee and Visitor Activity Center is completed. And we talked about that in the part 1 of our two-part permit discussion. And that's just a nice view of where these trailers are, looking back across the old trailers and to this Cortex 2 construction site. As I bring the drone down lower, we can get a good look at that temporary kind of warehouse at the bottom right and the steel assembly that is really going quickly here. I'm going to bring the drone down low, fly along this perimeter grade beam, give you some look inside, and it looks like maybe some of the preliminary work to begin preparing for maybe some plumbing underneath the structure, and all that will eventually be covered with that concrete slab, but all that's going to be done while the roof is in place. And right now it looks like the priority is to get the overall superstructure completed. And as you can tell, they're really moving quickly. Another large section of the roof decking being installed. And also they're installing more of the beams on this section, and they're continuing to work towards the north. They're about 50% completed with the assembly of the structure so far. More of the steel on the ground, getting ready for that assembly and installation. And it also looks like it's still all one story. It's a pretty tall story, but nonetheless one story. And as I continue to maneuver the drone around, this gives you a nice view across the site and what the progress looks like, of course, with the main factory in the upper right and the die shop on the left-hand side of the screen. I'm going to fly along this part of the site just to show you what's in between that construction area and the cathode plant. On the ground by those trailers, we can see concrete segments. Those are wall segments that will eventually replace some of the openings on the cathode building. Speaking of the cathode building, one of the permits that we did talk about is that new vehicle preparation center, and it's really nothing to see on the exterior that I can tell, but it is interesting that they have permits for that activity inside this building. As I bring the drone back down, we'll fly along the Wade pit, see that trailer on the right for some of the contractors, and a good view here of the crash testing facility. Some of the crash tested vehicles on the right hand side of the screen next to that black fence, and a slight view inside as they have those curtains kind of open at this point in time. I'm going to bring the drone up and just sort of pan to the east across these material staging yards and just some of the parking lots. On the right on the screen we see that field kitchen, and that still seems to be operational. I had thought that it would be taken up by now because of some of the work inside the main factory, but it looks like it's still being used. As we look at this construction zone here where eventually Tesla Road will come through, we can also get a good view of some of the materials for the underground water pipe as still being stored there. And as we continue to maneuver around, I'm going to come back for one more pass at the Cortex 2 facility. From this perspective, Wanted to show you that there is continued work with that perimeter grade beam on the south end. You can see a lot of the form work there and the workers, and they're going to finish up that through the south end. Now the openings that are in that perimeter grade beam all around the building is to allow easy access for bringing materials in. Eventually those will be closed up once the structure is getting closer to being completed. But as I maneuver on top of the battery cathode plant looking at that construction site, this is yet another good vantage point of how this entire facility looks at this point in time, and just about how much more they have to go to get the main superstructure completed. Here's a good look at the concrete vault items that are being temporarily stored here, the north part of the warehouse on wheels lot. This is all going to be used at that north construction zone around the ground surrounding the facility, and it will tie in either to electrical conduits or possibly underground water pipes, or a combination of both. As we continue to fly over the east warehouse on wheels, directly ahead, we can see that material staging yard where a lot of pipe segments are being stored along with some other equipment. One of the things I want to just point out again is we talked about the stamping 2 permit and the cooling system, and all of these pipes being assembled and manufactured just to the east in those warehouses and workshops. And I think that's what all that is, and it's waiting for the opportunity to be installed into the south end of the building along with that particular permit. On the parking garage, we can still see the privacy fences on the ground on the east side. Really no activity that I could tell on the roof, and of course passing by the trailers for the construction crews. We're going to continue to fly just away from there towards the testing and calibration lot. I mentioned in my previous video, one of those 2 tents that was used for the superchargers has been removed, and now there's only 1 remaining. The other thing I want to show as I kind of pan the drone around is all of the work with the permits for the mezzanines and the floor strengthening for the body in white allows all of these temporary platforms at various levels, the 3rd floor, the 2nd floor, and then through that secondary main entrance, the 1st floor. It gives them the chance to bring a lot of the materials in and equipment, and also other items necessary to build out that production capability. Here at the east side of casting, just notice all of the racks with all of the castings. I'll zoom in. This gives you a nice look at what they appear like today. Now, what we're seeing on the bottom is Model Y rear castings. We also see that baghouse filtration plant is looking pretty well. On the bottom of the screen here are more of the robotaxi or cybercab castings, and good view here. I'll try to zoom it in a little of the loading of that kind of aluminum compactor, and they have those bins. They turn them over, they put the scraps in there, and then eventually they make those rectangular bundles that you can see in the center of the screen. Also, there's some workers next to those large ingots that have been melted down, and it's right in the center of the screen next to that wall. Kind of gives you an idea of just the scale for those ingots. So I'm going to bring the drone up over the power lines, and we'll come back in for a lower level of view of some of the castings next to the northeast side of the factory. On the northeast side here, all of the castings and the rack mounts are for Cybertrucks. And as I continue to pan around, we can see more rackings that are empty on the north side of the paint shop. Also, we see these stands for the bumpers. Those are to paint the Model Y bumpers, and those are still waiting for movement inside. Now, on the right-hand side of the screen, we see a lot of employees gathering around here, and then along this northwest side on that sidewalk, there was some sort of a fire alarm that was going off, and they temporarily had everybody evacuate out of the building. And this is obviously where they do their kind of marshal up and just make sure everybody is safe and accounted for. And this kind of continued all the way along this side of the building at the time of my drone flight. And we'll see next to the earthwork and trench work on the upper right, there's another large group of employees. And just around this time, I think the all clear was given and they started moving back into the factory. So not a really big thing, didn't last very long, but periodically I will see something like this. Now, while we're here, we can tell that the work here on the trenching, the trench boxes, and the installation of these large pipes is continuing, and they are continuing to also progress towards the south, getting closer to the flag poles. Now, we're going to continue to fly towards the south. The thing I want to show you here is the exit point for the Model Ys out of the factory. We can see a Model Y just drove out. And I'm going to give you a couple of different clips so you can get a sense of the activity here. They come out and are driven autonomously from inside the factory down that ramp through that only lane, and then they enter into this active street. And that was one of them heading off that way. Here's a couple more, and you can kind of get a sense for the traffic that they have to negotiate while doing the autonomous driving. And this one will continue to the south along with the other one. And then I think I'm going to show you one more view of this. Again, the car coming out autonomously. As you can tell, there is no driver here, and it has to negotiate the traffic. There's another one getting ready to exit too, and then it will continue on to the south and over to the west end of line, even changing lanes as necessary. So anyway, that's a look at kind of the operations and how that works with the Model Ys exiting the factory. I did also notice Cybertrucks driving autonomously coming out of the Cyber Tunnel, and I was able to do a longer dedicated video on following a Model Y all the way along the distance to the end of line facility, and that will be released as a separate video. Now we've kind of crossed over the highway. We're at the north end of the end-of-line facility, and you'll see some of the Cybertrucks lined up in those lanes on the left and then entering in the north end of the end-of-line for processing. Also notice this excavation work with conduit in this section, very close to those kind of green boxes and the power lines. Of course, we see Model Ys doing the test track figure 8, and a lot more of them in the outbound lot. In fact, the outbound lot is quite full today and very active with transport trucks. And I'm going to take the opportunity and bring the drone down low, fly over some of the Cybertrucks, give you a closer view of them here. And possibly one of them is a rear-wheel drive, or maybe a couple of them with the no tonneau cover. And we'll see those kind of sprinkled in with the regular Cybertrucks all along the outbound lot. This is a nice grouping of vehicles. There's all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive Model Ys, and what appears to be Cyber Beasts, all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive Cybertrucks. Of course, the transport trucks are busy picking up a lot of the vehicles, and it's just a constant stream of them leaving as more of them autonomously drive over for processing and filling back up. So it's quite the operation that they have going on here. I wanted to bring the drone down here. We'll zoom in and just give you a look at these Model Ys. A lot of them have the dual range or dual motor badge on the back, and some of them, although it can be hard to tell, don't have any badges at all. So that's where I get the idea that there's both the long-range all-wheel drive and the long-range rear-wheel drives amongst all of this group. Also, a transport truck departing, flying about the same speed as the drone, gives you an idea of what this looks like at near ground level. And as I just continue to fly, at the top of the screen, you can see that another large grouping of vehicles, all prepared for pickup by the transport trucks. While I'm also in this side of the site, I wanted to fly over and show you that even more transformers are arriving today. And this has been kind of a, I don't know, an uptick in the activity with transformers recently. And I just noticed that there's trucks constantly arriving on site, and they're bringing them into two different locations. One of them is here, and the other one is farther to the south, and we'll get a chance to see both of them. And this is kind of just a nice view, kind of moving around, showing you what it is like. As soon as the trucks arrive, the forklift picks them up and puts them into place. Further to the south, all of the equipment here is waiting for their chance to be moved inside for assembly into the factory. In addition to that, here's some of those workshops. And also in this area, not only is there a lot of electrical conduit, but we see more of those superchargers waiting for installation as well. I did see some activity earlier, but not at the time when the drone flew by. This area continues to be kind of a deposit zone for various kinds of dirts, and you can tell the different colors and also the kind of the spoils that are coming out of the tunneling operation between the caissons under the Colorado River. That's that gray and darker material. It's a little bit more rocky as well because they are kind of burrowing well below the depth of the Colorado River. But all this is just being stored here. Maybe they're going to be using it for fill or some other purpose in the future. Now, this material staging yard continues to have steel items on either side of the transformers, but today I just want to concentrate on the transformers. And this is yet another delivery. There are multiple different brands and types of the transformers here, so it's not always just the same one. Here's all the new ones, and this truck is just arriving with even more. The crane's getting ready to pick them up out of the trailer. It has a quartering in top of the trailer. They're getting ready to kind of roll that back. And this is kind of a look at what that operation is like. And as I kind of continue to maneuver around, the door is open, so I'll kind of zoom in and show you that there is a transformer on the inside here. And again, it's just getting ready for them to move that top, and then they can hook it up to the crane. I'm not sure why they're putting the ladders down inside. Maybe it's to help with the connection of the crane to the transformers once that roof is rolled back. But anyway, just an interesting data point, the number of transformers that are arriving and being stored here at Giga-Texas, and it just continues. As we fly towards the factory, I'm going to make one more stop here. This is where the caisson construction with the tunnel boring machine and the pipe segments are being lowered down in. Today they have kind of a tarp over the top of that opening, so we can't really see what's going on there, but it does look like they're getting ready to move another one of those concrete liners down in, and then the hydraulic pistons will force it into the bore and continue that operation down towards and underneath the Colorado River. As we cross over the highway, we do see some additional work near this caisson, although I think this is all related to that trench work on the berm that we saw by the flagpoles. And this large trench box is so that the workers can get down there and do the work without having the cavity kind of collapse in on them. And we'll just continue to watch and see what kinds of pipe segments that they install and how it connects to existing underground water management system that is all throughout this entire section. Now, as I fly back to the north, I want to give you a look here at a couple of things. One is next to this gray trailer at the bottom. We see some of the Cybertrucks still being stored here. That's something that's been going on for well over a year now, and I'm not sure why they use this particular site for certain vehicles, but there you go. The next thing I wanted to show you, next to where this temporary platform used to be, the work on the windows and repair of that concrete wall panel. The plywood patch for the window has been replaced, or at least colored in black. And so that has been a small change. And then on the ground, we can see another section of concrete being removed. There are some kind of pink marks on the ground showing that more of this concrete is about to be removed as well. And so, of course, it wouldn't be Giga-Texas if we weren't ripping up concrete to put more concrete down. So I'll continue to watch and see why they're doing that and what that section is going to look like when it is completed. As we continue to fly towards the angled southwest corner, I just wanted to see what was going on with this opening. Of course, the framework is still there, but no real change. I don't really see a lot of activity with what they are going to be putting on for that final treatment, but another thing I'll just continue to watch. a nice look across this south end with some of the landscaping, that darker rock next to the windows, and of course the emergency escape tunnels. I did notice that there were crews working on the glass parapet wall, and by the time I got the zoom in, they had kind of lowered it down a little, but for some reason they're doing some additional work on this section, perhaps just checking the mounts for the glass. This is a nice zoomed in view of that cooling plant, and 4 of the 6 fans were in use today. Also, as I look around the corner, this is one of several temporary platforms along this length of the building, and this is going to be used also for more equipment, both materials for construction and also equipment for whatever they need in this part of the factory to be loaded up onto that second floor. And because of that, I think it's still going to be a while before we see the glass reinstalled. Here's a good look at that trench work that has been recently added across that parking lot. And then a nice look along the east side of stamping with some of those rack mounts, some deliveries, those bins for recycling of scraps that come out of the stamping presses. And they have kind of a conveyor system that's down in the isolation foundations underneath the stamping presses, and then that moves it up into that section where it's collected, and then they move them up to the melt plant for recycling. Here's another view here of that trench work next to the cooling platform, that asphalt on the east side of that platform on the ground, and the open section with that temporary platform. So I'm going to maneuver the drone around, and we'll kind of wrap it up for today's video. And I hope that you enjoyed the permits discussion on the intro and everything else we were able to see within the video. As always, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope you have a great week. Take care.